Now, what is a dead zone? Dead zone for a sensor, or dead zone for a transducer, or dead zone for a measuring instrument. So dead zone is in the initial from zero if you are trying to start or trying to give the input. Then for some amount of input you are giving the values or you are increasing the input, it will not give any output because all the input whatever you are giving that is being consumed by that particular device itself. For example, you are having a thermometer. Then you are having the thermometer which you are having mercury inside a glass tube and you are having a capillary. So you are dipping it in water to measure its temperature. So you say the temperature has increased by say 0.1 or 0.5 degrees centigrade. It may not show in the readings because whatever the heat you are given, the thermometer initial temperature is very less. But even though the temperature of the water has increased, so that energy is absorbed by the glass and other things of the thermometer. So it has not yet, it is not showing any value, or it may not show any value because thermometer is absorbing that particular heat energy and it is giving up. So it is not achieved any kind of some stable equilibrium. So it will not show any reading. So like that, every device initially whatever you give the input value, it is consuming and it may not show any kind of output. So some of the device will consume this energy as heat and the instrument will slowly getting heated up. Only after it warms up to certain temperature or certain level, it will start showing the readings. So that dead zone is there for every instrument. Next one is the dead time. So dead time is the amount of time during which you are not going to find any input value even though you have changed any output value, even though you have changed the input. So that is required for because the system has to stabilize. It has to come into equilibrium, then only it will give the output. So dead zone is the input value. Dead time is the time for which you are not having any kind of output, even though you are given the input. Next one is the backlash. What is backlash? We have studied backlash with respect to gears. Now, if you are rotating the gear in a particular direction, there is no issue. But if you are trying to reverse the direction of rotation for a small movement, the teeth will not be in contact because there is something called as a clearance between the gear tooth, correct? So you are rotating clockwise direction, the gears will rotate. But if you want to rotate in counterclockwise direction, then for a small angular rotation of the gear, you will not be having any movement. So that is called as the backlash. So you will not be having any, some amount of motion is lost. So that we will call it as the backlash. So this is there in the mechanical devices. There is some explanation for the backlash in the electronic devices also. So you are giving input in one direction, then if the direction of the input is changed, so you will be not having the exact change in the output value because we will say that there is something called as electronic backlash. So some absorption of the current and voltage is going to happen because of which the output is not going to change the direction instantaneously. After some time it will change, but instantaneously it will not be able to change the output value. So some amount of energy or some amount of signal is going to be lost in that particular process. So this is called as the backlash. So when the direction of the input has changed, so from positive to negative it has happened, you will not find the same change in the output for a very brief period of time. So some signal is lost. So that loss is called as a backlash, or if you are measuring in terms of error, we will call it as a backlash error. Next one is bias. Now what is bias? So we will say that there is a bias in the particular system when if you are making any measurement, always it is showing in a higher value or it is always showing a lower value. Then that is the example of an error. And in other terms, if you want to say, we will say that this particular device having a bias of say so much. So this bias can be corrected by using a correction factor. So if the bias can be continuously increasing or it can be stable over the entire range, or maybe in some particular high value, you can have a say one-sided error. That we will call it as a bias. Now what is drift? Now drift is the shift of the output value. Now why does the output value shift? Now if you are seeing any electronics device or if you are seeing any mechanical device, if you are giving a constant input, which means the input value is not changing. So initially you are going to see some output value and you have make a note of it. after some period of time, even though you are not changing any input value, the output value will start to shift by some value very slowly. Now, the amount by which it shifts is called as a drift. So, if you have seen the electronic systems, mic and other things, you have set at a particular volume, then slowly you will see that it will try to make some noises. So, all those things are because of the drift. So, the output value will slowly begin to shift. So, this shift can happen because of the lot of parameters, internal friction or heat that is being generated by the various devices. Because of all this, there will be a gradual shift in the output that is achieved through that particular system. So, continuously you should have some sensors which are continuously measuring the output, and you have to keep on making the corrections to make sure that the output is not drifting. That is another important parameter. Now, what is uncertainty? The uncertainty, accuracy, and tolerances, all these are relatable parameters. So, once you take out the values, you are making certain computations and you are going to get all these different parameters. So, what is this uncertainty? So, uncertainty is the, what you can say, how much a chance of having the error. So, you are getting the value as say 5 volts, but you are not sure whether it is 5 volts or whether it is 4.9 volts or it can be 4.6 volts or whether it is 5.1 volts. So, it can be anything. So, at what level you are having the probability of having the exact value, that we will call it as the uncertainty of that particular measuring device or uncertainty of that particular sensor. So, at a particular reading, we will say that the uncertainty is 5% means we can be more or less sure that whatever value you are getting, that will be correct. If the uncertainty is say 50%, then 50% chance is there that the value is within the readings that is showing, or 50% chance is that the value is not what exactly it is showing. The actual value may be something else also. Then the next one is the hysteresis. Now, hysteresis, we can say when you are increasing the output or input value say from 0 to 100, you are making the measurement of the output. So, this is the graph you are going to get. So, input you are continuously increasing. So, the output also will correspondingly increase based on the formula or based on the readings that you are going to get. So, input and output you are getting. Now, you are decreasing the input from maximum value, you are coming to 0 again. Now, traditionally speaking, that should follow the same path. It should follow the same path. But in actual practice, it will never follow the same path. Or if you are initially starting with a very high input value, you are reducing it to 0, then again you are increasing it. Even then in both the cases, you are not getting the same value for the same input. So the difference in the output for the same input, depending on the direction you have used for achieving that particular input value, the difference between the two readings is called as a hysteresis error. Now, this phenomena of getting different output values for the same input value, this phenomena is called as a hysteresis. So, this is a very big issue. This means you are continuously increasing, then you are making the measurement node, you are getting some output value which will be having some accuracy and you are knowing the value. Now, if you are reducing the input, again you are making the measurement, you are not going to get the same value at the same output. For example, we will say you are giving our input value as 5 volts. So, you are measuring from 0 to 10 volts, you have given an input at 5 volts, the device is showing as 4.95 volts. Now, you have reached to say 20 volts, from 20 volts you are coming back to 0 volts. At different positions, you are again making the measurement. So, at again 5 volts, it will not show exactly 4.9, it may show 5.2 also, or it may show 4.6 also, it may show something else, but it may not show the same value which it has shown in the earlier. So, then it becomes very important to know in what direction you have made the measurement, whether you have taken the reading when the input values are increasing or you have taken the reading when the input values are reducing. So, this will determine what input or what output value you are going to get, and accordingly you will be having the error associated with this hysteresis, and you have to make certain compensation for it so that you are getting the accurate reading. So, this is about the hysteresis. So, all these things are called as a static characteristics, which means you have given the input has changed from one value to another value, you have allowed some time for the system to stabilize, then you are seeing all these different characteristics of the system like range, span, and other things. Next one is the dynamic characteristics. Dynamic characteristics means you are given the input to a change in the, you have changed the input. Instantaneously, you are seeing what exactly is happening to the output before it becomes an equilibrium and it reaches to one single output value. So after all the fluctuations and other things have reduced, what is the output? That is the measurement you are doing. All these things, characteristics are called as the dynamic characteristics. You have changed the input, say from 0 volts to 5 volts, you have changed. Now the output also should show 5 volts, that is 100%. Say at time 0, you have changed the input from 0 volts to 5 volts. From time 0 till the output reaches the 100% of the input, whatever you are seeing the performance of the system, all those things will consider as the dynamic characteristics. First one is the overshoot. So what is the overshoot? Overshoot means the moment you change the input value, the output also will begin to change. Now if it exceeds the 100%, which means you change the volts to 5 volts, and if the system shows 5.1 volts or 5.2 volts, then we'll say that there is a overshoot. Otherwise, we'll say that there is no overshoot. So sometimes the output will go like this. So it will rise above 100%, come below 100%, then it will fluctuate around 100%, and after that it is going to stabilize. So how much it is exceeding above 100%, that will be called as the overshoot of that particular system. Next one is the time constant. Now time constant is the time the device takes to reach 63.2% of the output value, which means you have given 5 volts as the input, so you have to get 5 volts as the output. So instantaneously it will not come to 5 volts, it will take some amount of time. Now this time constant is 5 into 0.63, that is around 3 volts. So the time the system takes from 0 to the 3.2, that is 3.2% of the output, how much time it takes, that is called as a time constant. Next one is the response time. So response time is the time the system takes to show 95% of the output value, which means you have changed it to 5 volts. So 5 into 0.95, so around 4.5 something is there. So how much time the system needs to show that 4.5 volts and something, 4.75 volts. So that time is called as the response time. So response time and time constant, these two will say how quickly the system will change to show the change in the input value. Next one is the rise time, and you are having the settling time. So rise time is for the 90% of the output. Settling time is the time required so that the system is going to stabilize. So there are always going to be some fluctuations. So the fluctuations, the time it takes to reach within 2%. So you are having 100%. So on the upper side you are having 102%. On the lower side you are having 98%. So within this small band, the output has to be present. If it is more than that, then we'll say the system is having lot of oscillations. It should settle within that small band of 2% error. So if it is there, then the time taken by the system to reach that particular equilibrium condition, that is called as the settling time. So all these different time constant, response time, rise time, and settling time will give an indication how quick the system is there so that it reacts to the input and you can make the measurements. Now, what is the importance of this? What is the importance of the settling time, importance of rise time, and the time constant? Now, for example, you are having a response time of say 1 second. Means whatever the input has changed, the system requires 1 second to reach response time is 95% of the output value. If your input values are changing very fast, then you will not be able to make out all the measurements, because before the system can detect a particular input value, the input has already changed to some other value. So you are not able to make the accurate measurements. Lot of information is going to be undetected. So you will not be able to detect some of the information because your system will say that it is very, very slow to detect the changes. So if you are having a system which is having lot of variations and the changes are happening at a very, very quick rate, then you should have a very, very fast, very low response time, or your system should be very quick to respond to these changes. So these are some of the dynamic characteristics of the sensors, or it can be of the transducer, or it can be of the measuring device.